be starting our meeting. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you also very much for your patience. We're going to jump right into our meeting. We thank each and every one of you for coming out on this Wednesday, which is the day before schools begin. We're super excited. We see some of our teachers in the audience and administrative staff, and we're glad that you're able to be here. At this time, we're going to have our citizens' comments. The floor is open for citizens' comments. Policy 2370 speaks to the citizens' comments. If you're not aware of it, I can go over it with you, but if you are, that's fine. If you could state your name and your address. You have 3 minutes. Thank you, ma'am.
Susan Cox. My grandson lives at...
Can you speak into the microphone because the fan is in our ear?
Okay. My name is Susan Cox. My grandson lives at 20 Vernon Terrace. I've come here out of desperation to see if I can find someone to help my daughter and I get my grandson into a special education program. At the end of the school year, we had a meeting with Tiffany Sivko to discuss his future placement. As BOCES would not have a program for him next year, we were concerned that since it was the end of the school year, we would be left without a placement in September. We were assured by her that referrals would be sent out through the summer. We have since called student services on many occasions, sent out numerous emails to everyone, including Tiffany Sitko, Yvonne Palmer, Tasha.
Excuse me, ma'am. One of unfortunately, the policy does not allow you to specifically call out individual names, and I apologize if you weren't aware of that. Thank you.
We've received very little information and no packets to review. The school year is now here, and he has no placement. I'm not sure what else to do to facilitate this process, and would again ask if there's anybody that can help. My grandson's 11 and fully aware that the other kids are going to school and he is not. My question is, why not? This is not acceptable. It's discrimination, in my opinion. We have not received packets. We have no placement for him, and nothing in the future. When does this happen? This has happened twice before. People say, "Oh, how can this happen?" It's happened. Happened twice before. He was out of school for 5 months. This was in another district. In this district, he was out of school for 2 months because they didn't have a bus driver. I work in the field. I'm a manager of a developmentally disabled day house. And I know that information or misinformation in a file can have significant ramifications. So it makes me wonder, why? What's in his file that is causing no school anywhere? Greenberg 11 in Yonkers? That's where they want to send him? So I am desperate to find my grandson a school to go to. If anybody can help me, I would desperately appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Cox. We're going to turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Osser.
Hi, ma'am, and thank you for bringing your concern to the board. This is the forum in which you have the ability as a citizen of the Poughkeepsie City to do so. The lady who's sitting right to your right, she is the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. She will most certainly speak with you right after this meeting to get your information and to work with you personally in making sure that your concern is addressed, okay?
Thank you. I read that you were a champion of children.
Most certainly.
My grandson could use a champion, but all he has is me and his mother. So we have to fight the best we can.
Yeah. And we're here to support you, and more importantly, or just as importantly, we're here to support your grandson too. And I would like to meet him one day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Cox. Are there further citizens' comments? If not, we're going to move into our consent agenda. Are there items to be pulled from the consent agenda? I want to make sure something. Trustee Reeser,
Oh, I see.
would you like to pull?
It's,
Oh, that's an
Yeah,
action
it's action,
item.
yes.
Okay.
Can I pull discussion 8.3?
8.3. I want us to look at them because I know there were a couple of questions regarding some of these. I just want to make sure that we're spot on, that we don't vote and then there's, afterwards, there's questioning. So we want to make sure that we're spot on with these. Make sure that there's no questioning that needs to be answered beforehand, before we vote. So we will pull 8.3. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda excluding agenda item 8.3?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 8.3?
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Long?
Yes, I just wanted to put this out here. I'm concerned about our hiring practices. We're predominantly African-American district and Hispanic, Latino, and we don't seem to be hiring staff that are African-American and Latino. So, I mean, my question here is, I would like to know how many people who have actually applied for the position. Were there individuals who are currently employed in the district? Because we do have a number of African-American and Latino individuals who are currently employed through the district that meet these qualifications, and I'm just wondering if they were Spanish, and Spanish speaking. Do they meet the qualifications? And have they applied, and were they chosen for an interview? I mean, this really just concerns me. So I just wanted to bring it to the attention and state it on the floor.
Dr. Rosser, so it is the pleasure of Trustee Long to receive information specific to, Trustee Long, just for clarity, are you looking only for this specific appointment, or you mean at large?
I'm at large.
Okay.
you know-
Are there other board members that would be interested in receiving this information? I will support it, and if she would like to receive that information, I will support it by policy. That just to get a pulse, I think, and Trustee Long, I'm going to paraphrase what I believe you said, and correct me if I'm incorrect, that you're concerned that in a school district that's predominantly, if there are individuals that are within the school district that perhaps are applying for positions with their certification, and your take is that perhaps they're not getting interviews or they're not being considered, and then yet we are hiring individuals externally, and I'm just, if that's accurate, I'm just
That is
paraphrasing.
true. And just to add, they're not connected to the community, and they don't have a clue about our children that we serve, so.
When you say they, I don't understand who you're
Well,
speaking about.
Individuals that are being hired.
Oh, individuals that are being hired. So you're looking at more hiring within the district of qualified individuals than externally hiring individuals who are also perhaps qualified, but do not have a pulse of this district, the community, and of course, do not live in this community.
That is correct.
Okay, Dr. Rosser, so that is pretty much what she's requesting. If we could just, and that would be, once that information is received, it will be an executive session discussion. I just want to be clear then, are you opposed, are we going to vote? Are you,
No, we can vote. I
Okay.
just wanted to put it open for discussion.
Well, we already approved her
Last
position.
week
This
she
is
was
an
approved.
amendment.
Yes,
Yeah.
an amendment.
yeah, but even with the amendment, it would still, that would,
Correct.
if she wanted to not move forward with the amendment, because the amendment actually
Does it change the funding source?
is the funding
Funding
source.
source.
And the funding source by policy is an intricate part of the resolution. So then it would be something perhaps that could have been revisited by vote. However, she's not asking that of this board this evening, correct, Trustee Long?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve? So then we can go right into voting because we've already moved on this. Is there a motion to, Board Clerk, if we can just receive the voting for each individual board member specific to this agenda item 8.3?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Lefford?
Yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes.
Dr. Watson?
Yes, motion carries. The amendment, for those just to be 100% aware, was in the funding source, and by board policy, the board is mandated to include, in every case possible, the funding source, because it is a critical component of the resolution, and the funding source was incorrect. We're going to move to our Board of Education action items. The first is Agenda Item 13.1, approval of the revised 2019-20 school calendar. Again, this is an amended resolution. There were some dates, some information, some dates with the day that were slightly incorrect, and then there were some other pieces that were added. So we want to make sure that the information is as solid as possible. So is there a motion to approve Agenda Item 13.1 in its amended status?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion regarding this other than what I've already stated? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve Agenda Item 13.1? Again, this says Resolution Number 20170, which, 13.2, excuse me, Agenda Item 13.2, approval of the Code of Conduct Policy 5300. Is there a motion to approve this agenda item?
Are we,
Is there a motion to approve the agenda item? Just the
okay, so moved.
Second.
Any discussion regarding this resolution? Trustee Reeser?
You want to go first? Because I have some too.
Sure. Yeah, I do have a couple comments about the Code of Conduct policy as presented. First, I'd like to express my appreciation to Assistant Superintendent Hodge and all the administrators who gathered to review the policy and provide recommendations for improvements. I mean, that was done, at a busy time of the summer with fidelity to the calendar and deadlines, right? And it was done with great care. And so I really appreciate the hard work that was put in to present this revised Code of Conduct policy for our consideration. And I'm in approval of all the changes suggested, except for one. So I just have concerns about literally one line in the proposed Code of Conduct. It's the line that appears on the top of page 22, at the very end of section 8. It's in a list of prohibited items under section 8, dress and grooming. And the proposal is to prohibit something which is not currently prohibited. Right now, as I understand it, our current policy allows for the wearing of do-rags and skull caps and other similar head adornments, so long as they're monochrome black and not colored or have insignias on them. I believe that's the current policy. The proposal is to change the current policy and change it to now prohibit the wearing of, as it says, do-rags, skull caps, headbands, and other similar head adornments. So I do have a few concerns. This may come as a surprise to everyone here, but it turns out that I'm no expert on youth hairstyles. I have to admit my ignorance about many things. In my work as a board member, this would be at the top of the list. I have a 7-year-old entering 3rd grade, Sophie at Krieger. I've learned how to do a ponytail. We call it daddy ponytail. It's very crude. So my understanding of hair gets to ponytails and stops. So what I've done in the last week since this issue arose is I've gone on a mini listening tour I've spoken to a number, not as many as I had hoped in the end, but a number of parents of district children and one recent graduate of the district. And I've learned a lot. I've learned about the difference between ponytails, locks, dreadlocks, cornrows, and braids. I've learned the difference between do-rags, scarves, and bonnets. Bonnets are actually not even mentioned, but bonnets are a major fashion feature right now among youth. These are all significant differences to those who choose to wear them. What I've learned also is that hair is a family affair, and preparation for especially more elaborate hairstyles usually begins with choices and work the evening before school begins the following morning, and involves significant contributions from siblings and parents. So hair is a family affair, and it's important to families and to students. I'm concerned about making a change the day before school starts regarding hair and hair adornments in this case, and what's worn over hair, for a few reasons. I think that the process by which the proposal was advanced to us for our consideration could have been bigger and could have involved more voices and stakeholders. This is not to fault the administrators for the work they did in advancing a recommendation that they believe is in the best interest of children. But I think this is maybe a bigger change than we're realizing, and it's a change that needs more time, further deliberation, and voices that include students and parents. I'm trying to imagine a policy change where the phrase "no conversation about me without me" is more applicable, right? I would like to hear from students, and we're going to find that their opinions are probably varied on the topic. So I would be willing to consider this prohibition if it was the result of a more and broader deliberative process that included more voices, including those who were most directly affected. The second reason I have concern about it is that the stated reason for it is unpersuasive to me. The stated reason for a prohibition against do-rags and scarves is that they're connected to, precipitate, or perhaps even are a causal factor in violence and fights in our hallways, in our classrooms, on our school grounds. I've done a fair amount of thinking about that, and in my listening tour, as I tried to learn more about these issues, I struggled to find the connection that's been asserted. It's hard for me to understand how headwear could cause violence. No doubt it's incidental to violence insofar as the tying up of hair is a way to protect yourself. It's not a weapon, an offensive weapon. It's a defensive measure. It's like a shield as opposed to a knife or some offensive weapon. It's something that you do in order to prevent your opponent from grabbing your hair in a scuffle. So I understand the scarf or the headgear is incidental to and is implicated in a violent episode, a violent incident, but I'm not sure how it's causal. I could not find a shred of evidence in my research that banning headgear would alleviate violence in any way. And I'm struggling to understand how it could. So my concerns are procedural, that I think we need a bigger process and bigger conversation. My concerns have to do with the merits of the argument presented, which is the argument that this headgear is implicated in perhaps causal of violence. Neither of those seem to be satisfactory or persuasive to me. So there's the third concern, which is that we're about to make this change. We're about to do something which we have said that we shouldn't do, which is spring a change on parents right before school starts, right, with very, very little warning. I'm concerned that it will cause confusion at the front desk, at the entrance to the school, and potential for non-compliance inside the school grounds. It strikes me that this is headgear that in some cases can be removed for the purpose of entrance in school and then put back on inside. And so if we think that it is simply a matter of compliance at the desk, right, at the front door, and not in the hallways, I'm not sure that's the case. It's probably going to be a matter of enforcement in the hallways as well. And considering how quickly we're considering the change, there's great potential for noncompliance. And that leads to my final concern, where I think banning this headgear is unlikely to reduce violence. There's not a shred of evidence that I can find that it would. But there is circumstantial evidence to suggest that this ban will cause an increase in a metric that we don't want, which is the number of suspensions that are happening, and more specifically, the racial gap in suspensions, which exists here in the Poughkeepsie School District and across the country, right? We're not alone, obviously, in experiencing and coping with that problem. But I'm concerned about a policy which would prohibit a dress style worn primarily by African Americans, and the potential for that to increase a problem that we're trying to alleviate, which is, again, a racial gap in suspensions and disciplinary actions. So having said all that, I'm sorry I'm going on. I'm sorry, Madam Board President, for speaking at such length. I apologize. I'm wrapping up right now.
No, not at all.
Sorry, I'm wrapping up right now. I apologize for going on so long. Having said all that, let me just wrap up by saying that I think there needs to be a conversation about whether this headgear is appropriate. Not in terms of violence, but in terms of the kind of ways in which we wish to emulate best practices for our kids and help them be successful. There's no doubt that wearing scarves or do-rags to a job interview or to most occupations in America would not fly. And are we doing our students any favors by allowing dress styles, allowing them to wear things that aren't conducive to success and a best practice for their lives? So I think there's a conversation to be had about that, right? It should be a bigger conversation. It should take longer. It should involve more voices. We need to get students and parents involved in that conversation. And perhaps starting next calendar or academic year, we could introduce the kind of dress code change that's been proposed here. But I just think it's premature right now. I just think we have enough information, and I would argue against. I would argue in favor of the great work of the administrators in preparing all the changes that they made to our code of conduct. I'm in favor of everything, except for that one line in the proposal as I enunciated. And I'd be in favor of starting a conversation, which would be a longer-term conversation involving more voices about it. So, I know that was a longer set of comments. I apologize for taking up so much of the board and the audience's time. I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
I don't
Thank
think
you, Trustee Reeser.
I don't think you should apologize for taking up our time. This is, I expressed this to you before we sat down. We were given this code of conduct last week. It was literally posted the day before we had a meeting. So those of us who had other things, whether it was work or a previous engagement, didn't have time to really review the code of conduct when we went over it last Wednesday night. This is a board meeting. The purpose of the meeting is for us to have these kinds of conversations. I find it particularly beneficial to hear everyone's opinion. I am not someone who holds steadfast in my, I had initial reaction to this proposal, which was in support of it. Now I'm faced with everything that you have said has given me a lot to think about. I think about this as a parent, and to make a change like this on the night before school starts is completely unacceptable. If I was not sitting up here, I would be sitting out there and I would have been at the microphone. Because this district, it has become, we as a board are working on changing the culture and climate of this school district. And part of our culture is that the administration makes sweeping decisions like this at the last minute without letting the parents or guardians know. So now I'm left with, I have a huge concern about the fact that we're making this decision on the eve of school starting tomorrow. And that it's important for our children. We are riding a very good wave right now. And I think that it's one that is sustainable. I know it is one that is sustainable. And to have our children walk into school tomorrow morning only to be told that something that they were used to doing last year, now last year was the first year that that was imposed,
That's right.
or that it was allowed,
Right, that's true.
is going to give our middle school and high school students who this affects a very, very poor experience of the first day of school. Now I take it a step farther. I'm a 9th grade parent. My daughter is coming to this school for the very first time. How many 9th graders are going to walk up to that door and are going to be told that they have to take off their do-rag, their skull cap, their headband, or any other similar hair adornment? What is that going to create on the first day of school? And again, this is where I wish that we had more time, because we were given this literally 1 week ago. We have not, as a board, had a chance to discuss any of these concerns. You have concerns that you brought up. The one that also struck me is the one with regard to suspensions, because what's going to happen is, what has notoriously happened over the last year is this particular part of the Code of Conduct has not been enforced equitably across the board. So there will be children who have come to school last year with do-rags on that aren't black, and they have not been told to take them off. They have not been sent home. They have not been suspended. If we are in fact going to enforce this policy, what is that going to do, like you said, with regard to our suspension rate? That is something that we are very concerned about, and that is not something that I think was taken into consideration when this line was put in. It also brings to bear for me that there is a consistency issue. So now there won't be. That'll be gone because no one will be allowed to wear them. But it had me reading the line which comes after that, which is any dress or appearance that constitutes a disruption to the educational process or constitutes a health or safety concern. That is by far the broadest, most subjective line in this Code of Conduct, in my opinion, and in most of the students' opinions. Because there are students who can come to school, particularly in the middle school, because apparently from what I've heard from high schoolers and middle schoolers, that this Code of Conduct is not enforced equitably at the high school and at the middle school. That if a girl walks into school with ripped jeans on, and I don't mean to point out, but they're sold in the stores. They are all the rage now. And if the rips are above the pocket, some girls get sent home and have to change. Others do not, because some security guards say that is a distraction. Others do not. So some kids wear slides to school. Again, that is the footwear of choice for many of our teenagers. Some kids, it's fine. Others, stopped by security, stopped by teachers, stopped by administrators and told you can't wear slides, you have to wear shoes that have backs on them. That's not stated in our Code of Conduct, but someone can say, I'm sorry, but that constitutes a disruption. Oh, you have spaghetti straps. You have spaghetti straps. Constitutes a disruption. So now I have some issues that I'm not comfortable with. And I'm not comfortable with the short period of time that we were given to review this, the fact that we weren't able to have a discussion at all as a board prior to having to make a vote. And I have some very serious, obviously, concerns about imposing a prohibition like this the day before school starts. So those are the things with regard to content. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I had sent an email regarding just sort of typographical which are not reflected in this document. So I just want to know whether or not they're going to be made, and if they are, okay. Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question. Do we allow any other types of head, like caps, hats,
No.
ski caps? Nothing like that?
Bandanas or?
No. She's asking the Assistant Superintendent of Safety.
So what happens if,
Mr. Hodge, please step up to the microphone, so.
so what happens if a young man wears a hat?
He's asked to take it off.
Okay.
I wanted to,
And
before you
can I-
finish, I want to make sure Trustee Clifford was finished with her comments.
What if he doesn't take it off?
Then they deal with the administration.
Because one of the things, and I didn't do as extensive the research that you did, but I talked to a number of students, and I talked to a number of faculty members with regard to this. And there is the issue, and you're right, hair is a family affair. And for many of our students, it's easy to get up in the morning and throw our hair in a ponytail. For a lot of our students, it is not. So, perfect example, I went and, well, this goes to Michelle's talking about a hat. I went and had a haircut, and it was horrible, and it was short, and I was mortified. Did not want to go to work the next day. Called my teacher and said, I don't think I really want to come to work tomorrow. She said, fine, I'll bring you a baseball cap. I can have a bad hair day, and I wear a baseball cap, and I have to take my cap off. If I don't take my cap off, then
Right, there's a code
Right.
of conduct. There's a code of
Well,
conduct.
and I-
Trustee Martinez-Leffert, please.
So I just want to say a few things about this. I understand administration and the teachers that they feel that they need the support because, you know, I'm trying to understand the correlation between wearing the do-rags and the violence that's happening in the schools. It's hard for me to understand how there's an actual correlation between the two things, but I do support the teachers and administration in stating that there seems to be a sign of the do-rags get tightened prior to a fight or some type of violence. But the actual correlation between the violence and the do-rag, I have a hard time putting those two things together. As Trustee Clifford was talking about with dress code, I do have a hard time even considering something like this because I feel like we are in some ways shaming children's bodies, the choices that they choose to make as far as what they're wearing. You know, one day somebody might wake up, or as Trustee Clifford stated, with getting a haircut. You know, I know as a teacher, boys will come into school, they'll have, you know, their mom took them to get their haircut. They don't necessarily feel comfortable in it yet. It might take 48 hours. They come in, I know why they're wearing a baseball cap. And I don't ask them to take it off, even though I know, you know, traditionally we're supposed to, they're not supposed to be inside a building with a cap off, but I will let them wear it because I don't want them to feel shamed in front of their classmates if they're not comfortable in what their mom made them, how their mom made them get their haircut the night before or whatever. So it's hard for me to make this decision, as also Trustee Reeser said, without real information from all parties. So it be the students, it be everybody, and for us to get some real data on this.
Now, you talked to
And I
me
did-
earlier that you spoke to some parents,
Yeah.
black parents, and what was their take?
So I did speak to two black moms in the community, and they said that they actually are for not using or wearing do-rags in the district because their belief is that it's not setting our students up for success. And which I do agree with that part of, but you know, I had to reach out to them because I don't understand, right, why someone would want to wear a do-rag, right? So I had to step out of my own comfort zone and ask. And I don't know, can somebody go to a job interview and get a job with a do-rag on? And I was told by these parents, no, this is not something that, you know, it tends to be something that children or adults wear in the evening before they go to bed. And that's what I was told.
Trustee,
So I have a question, if you don't mind. Trustee Research, thank you for your points are very well taken. Trustee Clifford, I heard what you said, and I'm not sure where all this came about, because last year we had the same code of conduct with the same verbiage in it, and it really wasn't an issue. What I want to ask you, Assistant Superintendent Hodge, what about the individuals who wear turbans?
So
How different is that?
it's a different, unless worn for religious reasons, it's in the code. So, turbans, hijabs, any,
I know that.
a Jewish student with a yarmulke, it's not an issue.
Okay.
So one of the things that I did a little research myself,
No, go ahead.
I did a little bit of research myself. Trying to take a look at several of the regional districts that we have similar demographics as ours. For example, Spring Valley, I looked at theirs, and they're, no headwear. But they also have in their description the same exact thing, unless worn for religious purposes. I looked at Yonkers, same thing, headwear of any kind, including but not limited to hats, caps, unless for religious or medical purposes. There are students sometimes that have medical situations where they get approved to be able to wear headwear.
let me just interject. Yonkers, just in case anyone's not aware, their high school has 5,000 students, FYI.
New Rochelle, same verbiage. There was one, my old district I looked at, Albany City, one of the big five, not include the wearing of hats or head covers unless for religious purposes.
And these are all predominantly Black and Latino school districts, FYI.
These are all black districts.
Can I just make one other statement that I forgot to make before, is it's really disturbing when the presentation was made, and I'm not just addressing you, but just overall, right? When you made the presentation last week about the number of, and you didn't give an exact number, but just based on what you said, right, I was able to make an assumption that the number of potential suspensions, whether they be in school or out of school, that took place due to children wearing do-rags that's really concerning to me.
Yeah.
Right, I think.
do have a little bit of data related to
Okay.
that. I will hit that. Syracuse, for example, actually had the shortest sentence, only for health, safety, or religious purposes. That's their sentence for headwear.
One of the big five in the New York State, predominantly Black and Latino school district.
Peak skill, headgear of any kind, including but not limited to hats, hoods, same line, headgear for religious or medical purposes.
Regent Johnson is a former superintendent in that school district. Yes. And actually, Dr. Rosser's associate from Buffalo is now the superintendent in that school district.
And another school district in the region similar to us, Newburgh, the wearing of hats is prohibited unless worn for religious or medical purposes. So, that was some of the, looking at a lot of, Arlington had the same thing. And Spack-and-Kill also had the same thing. So one of the things, a little bit of data that I got from the high school, for example, 10% of their insubordination cases that actually led to a higher level type of response dealt with the dress code. And several of them began with headwear, do-rag, where as simple as, hey, take the do-rag off.
And this is particularly the high school, correct?
This is the high school data. Okay. I'll get to the middle school in a second. Okay. This is, so in some of the cases where, it started out very simple, hey, can you take your headgear off? And then it just escalated into a situation where a student had to, whether a student had to go home or in-school suspension, or had to have a parent call.
Now, one other question. Did you dig deeper to see if it's the same students over and over again?
Yeah, I did. And
Okay.
the information that I had from the administrators, it's only one student twice out of the 10%. Only one student was
Repeated.
Now, one of the, it's not really clean data at the middle school, but they had 788 incidents of insubordination.
Due to
And-
dress code or
No,
overall?
Overall.
Okay.
And the reason it makes that a little bit, so we have to actually do some education and some development with our teachers on Infinite Campus, how they're putting in their information. Because on some of those, the administrator that I was working with that went through this, he was basically saying, so like it could have started out as a situation where, hey, take your hat off or take your whatever, and then it escalated to a real serious situation. When the teacher went into Infinite Campus to put that part got lost. It was just the action
The backlash.
the backlash. So then now we have to work on that part with them to make sure that they actually put that data in there. So we don't really have great clean data on that at the middle school, but it did happen in a lot of occasions. But the teachers didn't code that specifically for dress code situations.
And let me just sort of jump in here real quick. I'm very much in agreement with the comments about how this information is being presented to the board to have to make a serious decision, particularly a decision that's going to have implications on our school community, namely our parents and our students. As we've discussed, Mr. Hodge, and you sort of outline, how we will deal with these situations, particularly major board policies such as the Code of Conduct, how we will move forward with making sure that there's multiple voices that's providing opportunity to help inform what a school-wide policy will look like. Can you talk a little bit more and just remind the audience who may not have been here last week of what we're looking to do moving forward?
Thank you, Dr. Roger. Also, I'd like to thank the board for their feedback. Moving forward, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be actually starting a student code of conduct task force. And we're going to have folks on that task force, obviously, in district as well as out of district. And I'm actually going to be reaching out to the community to get some folks on that task force. Also, a part of that process, we're going to also have some open forum. We're going to have 2 open forum meetings for the community to come out.
Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you just indicate what sort of stakeholders will be on the task force? You mentioned the community, but whom else?
Yeah, so on the task force, there's going to be central office administration, school district administration, students, and other members from the community at large to be a part of our process. Definitely, we want to have every aspect of the community and the district included in this. Just so when we get to June next year, it's just a stamp. Because at that point, when we give our recommendation to the school board for our student code of conduct, we will have done what we needed to do to make sure that everyone is included in this process and they're heard. One of the things also is a part of the process, we'll have some online opportunity for people to actually give their feedback online for 2 weeks. That'll be the last part of the process. So we'll have 2 open forums. We'll have a 2-week period for people to actually give feedback online as well as in every school district building. And then we'll compile all that information, bring it back, work it all out, and get a really nice student code of conduct. One of the things that was eye-opening for me is actually, as I'm saying, I'm going to these districts, I was able to take a look and get some really good ideas already to start thinking about some things that we really need to have in our code of conduct moving forward.
So one of the things I think that, unless board members have other things to say, I just want to kind of sum up this piece here, is I think the greatest efficiency is not, I don't think the focus is on the one item. It's the presentation of the code of conduct. Typically, there's a public hearing and then there's weeks that go by before, and then during that time, information is able to be garnered. The board is able to hear things and question things, because there was, and I want to make sure that we say this, because there was a public hearing. It occurred last week, and you did present it, and anyone could have come to the microphone. Any board member could have spoken regarding this. So this was not just brought before us Now, I want to be very clear with that. However, generally speaking, it is a process. And through the SAVE legislation, the Safe Schools Against Violence in Education, the reality is that you already have that committee in place. The plethora of stakeholders, the SAVE committee in and of itself is representative of what you just described. So the reality is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's the exposure of this. The difference, and I think the deficiency in this case is the time. And I think that's what some of my board colleagues are saying, is that the ability for them to think, to process, and this change. Again, this was just implemented last year. So it's not like all the previous years it was not in place. And we tried this, and I remember vividly, because we said that we would see if it worked or not. And I want to remind the board, those that were on the board at that time, that we did tell, I don't know if it was you at the time, I can't remember who, it was Todd Aldinger that initially did the public hearing. We said we would try it and see if it worked, and we would get feedback, and the data would substantiate whether or not we continued it this year. That's what we said. As a black woman, as a board member, as someone who understands all sides, and I'm hearing this, so one or two things, when I look at the code of conduct, if we say no baseball caps, you can't tell me then someone could wear do-rags if we can't have baseball caps. Good hair day, bad hair day. You can't tell me that if I wanted to wear a cap, not a baseball cap, if I just wanted to wear a cap, and I'm notorious, I wear a lot of caps. I don't mean a baseball cap, I wear a lot of hats, period. Anyone that knows me know I wear a lot of hats. So if I came to this district and I can't wear a hat as a student, then why is someone wearing a do-rag? I mean, we're the talking right and walking left, or we're talking right and we're walking right. So there cannot be this dissension. Later for the violence piece and all of those things, I think that some of that information that was presented to this board was probably in sync with some of the comments that have been made by my board colleagues, was maybe not 100% placed. In sync with what the data substantiate. And I openly talked to this last week, and I wasn't siding forward or against it. However, I look at just the facts, ma'am. That's how I operate. And I want to remind the board, again, that we said we would try it, and we would let then it go back to the teachers, the administrators, to determine if this was something that should be maintained, and then if not, then it would be brought back to us. And that's that piece. Now, given the time frame and respect to my board colleagues, one or two things can happen, Dr. Rosser, and because this is daily operations, the vote is for the board. However, the implementation and institution of this is under daily operations, and because you are the CEO, then one or two things can happen if my board colleagues are in sync with this and would like for this to occur, is to, now, couple of things. One, we're already out of compliance. I want us to be very aware, and I'm saying this because I'm exonerating myself, because I will not be a party to non-compliance. That's one thing. And to me, that is crucially important, because you can amend things, but when you're out of compliance with the New York State Education Department rules and regulations, to me, that is of a greater thing, and we are out of compliance if we don't have a code of conduct and our young people are coming into school. So, one or two things can happen. We can table this and have a...
Can you clarify? We're not out of compliance right now, but if this didn't pass, we would be out of compliance?
We're out of compliance
Correct?
because our kids would be coming to school
Right,
with no
but we
code of
will
conduct.
be.
Yes. And
Okay.
essentially, I'll be honest, we
No, I
really
know.
are beforehand, because we were supposed to, the public hearing was supposed to occur, and then you have time. And I said that. Dr. Rosser, of course, just got on board, but I resoundingly said that. I think it's typically a 3 to 4 week period. So there are all of these parameters that we're up against, and I'm not trying to push anything through. I stand and support 100% of the voice of the board members. I love and respect that they think and that the board members are able to state their thoughts and to substantiate it. However, one or two things can happen. We can do a vote on this and have a grace period of time to educate, to inform for Dr. Rosser and his team, to inform parents that this is a part of the code of conduct for whatever time frame. That's not a board's decision. That would be a CEO, a daily operations decision. or we table this, we remain out of compliance of New York State Education Department rules and regulations, and we continue to perseverate over this and figure out what we want. Now, what was said to us last week, and whether I agree 100% or not, and the rationale, there's a lot that to me just didn't make good business sense, and I didn't, or good holistic social emotional learning sense, but I put that aside. But what's stated to me, and I want to ask you again, are the administrators 100% in agreement that this is causing, when it comes to culture and climate within this school, are they stating that this is not best practices for this district? I'm just asking you, is that what was stated? I don't need it from the audience, I need it from you to hear this.
This was dated today. To whom it may concern, the Poughkeepsie High School and middle school administrative teams would like to express their strong belief that an adjustment to the dress code will support the district mission of providing a safe learning environment and the vision of preparing students for life, ready for college and career. We are preparing students to be ready to enter the workplace, and it has been out of our experience through internship opportunities for our students that in the workplace, non-religious and non-work specific headgear is not allowed. We want to create a school environment which mirrors elements of the work environments our students will be entering. The removal of all head coverings except for religious purposes and medical purposes allow us to better identify students in hallways and facilitate a safer educational environment. Head covering are also used as a way to non-verbally signal pending altercation to other students. As a group of professionals, we believe that adjusting the dress code to remove non-religious head coverings would lead to a more focused and academically driven school environment. Our faculty and staff have echoed the belief in meetings throughout the previous school year. We respect the community and culture, but also wish to create a school environment with minimal distraction to the educational process.
And I'll just add, all of the African-American parents that I've spoken to, last year when we first instituted this, I got more backlash by voting for it. And then we had to help them to understand why this board chose to do that in sync with the information and the data that we were given. And so I got more backlash from and this is African. My contention is that the preponderance of the individuals that are directly impacted by this only look like me. So if the Latino kids, if this isn't an issue for them and we have Latinos in our school, or if the white kids and they can't wear, if white kids wanted to wear baseball caps or whatever the fad is and they can't do it, then to me, when I look at an equitable educational system and I'm allowing the black kids to wear do-rags, then that's not equity to me. This is Felicia Watson speaking. I'm not speaking for anyone else. So, and then when I look at the social-emotional learning factor or social-emotional development and learning factor of this, and I see that in a predominantly black and Latino school, if there's preference given for kids that are black to have certain apparel, and then I cannot have that apparel, then for me, it violates the Dignity for All Students Act, and that's a whole nother area of compliance that as a board member that I would be very much concerned about. Or if I'm harassed, intimidated, or bullied because I'm allowed to wear that and the other individual is not, it does fall under the Dignity Act, and that's a whole other issue, which as board members, we should all be very much aware of, and from a legal perspective, because our role is around policy. That is our core role, is function and role stems from policy. So those are the things. So Dr. Rosser, I can put it back in your court as far as,
Can I just
well,
make
first
one
I can
quick
ask
comment?
board members, sure.
So back to what I said earlier about the suspensions, I think we really need to be looking at the protocol that we follow if, and I don't know what it is step by step, and I'm sure in every situation it can be a bit different, right, depending on if there is backlash from the student that's being addressed. But looking at how we approach students and how we are de-escalating the situation if it is starting to escalate. Because suspending kids, if the initial reason is a do-rag, and then ending up that these kids are now sitting in a room for however many days, or staying at home, that's not benefiting them, it's not benefiting us, it's not benefiting our community. So we really need to be looking at that.
I agree.
So to the board, I want to ask you first, what is your pleasure regarding this specific resolution? Trustee Long, do you want to move forward with it, or do you want it tabled, or do you want Dr. Rosser to put in place a grace period with the moving forward so that parents can amply be informed of this code of conduct for this school year?
I would like to move forward with a grace period.
Trustee Martinez-Lefford?
Same.
Trustee Clifford?
Same.
Trustee Reeser?
Yeah, I mean, we can move forward. I mean, I may express myself through my vote, but sure, we can move forward, absolutely.
Okay. We're going to, Dr. Rosser, is there any comments that you would like to make regarding this?
Well, I think moving forward with a grace period would be most appropriate because there are some compliance issues, number one, and then also the fact that and I stated this earlier, that these type of decisions should be made providing all stakeholders with enough time to be able to make an informed decision, and then also those who are going to be faced with the decision, the implications of the decision, will need to also make or be provided with time to make adjustments. And that doesn't only speak to our parents and our students, but that speaks to our staff as well, because as you mentioned, Mr. Hodge, one of the things that we will need to do is to make sure that all of our staff, just not our classroom teachers, but the security monitors, our building principals, the teacher assistants, the cafeteria folks, everyone needs to be professionally developed
That's right.
around the code of conduct.
That's right.
And it's going to take us some time to make sure that, particularly with this change, that everyone is on one accord, so a student is not placed in a situation where he or she is being impacted by our inability to make sure that everyone is aware of the change in the policy.
And this is not just for do-rags. We have to be very clear, because there's, in the code of conduct talks about headgear at large. So this is not about do-rags, and we have to be very clear with that if a student who had on a cap, they could not come to this school. I want to be explicit with that, right? Correct?
That's always been.
That's always been there, okay.
Yes.
No further board comment. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Reeser?
No.
Ms. Doreen Clifford?
Yes.
Mrs. Lefford?
Yes.
Ms. Long?
Yes.
And Dr. Watson?
Yes, motion carries. And I want to be clear, we're voting for, so the audience understands, the code of conduct, we're not voting on do-rags.
Right.
We're voting on implementation of the code of conduct for the 2019-2020 school year. We are not, and I say this to our audience, we are not voting on do-rags or not do-rags. We're voting on implementation of the code of conduct that's presented to us by the school safety team. Motion carries. We're moving to our next agenda item, 13.3, approval of the district-wide safety plan. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Again, I just want to add, we have to take the time. This year, we've done a terrible job of presenting information to the Board of Education. The board has not been given ample time to look at these things and to read through these things and to make adjustments and assessments, look at best practices, weigh in, make statements regarding these. Last week with the initial district-wide school safety plan, that presentation, and Mr. Hodge, you know, you're a wonderful human being, you're an excellent employee, but that was not from a district-wide school safety team perspective. we can do better than that. And I know, because I've heard you resoundingly talk to, and just in passing in conversations with you, the knowledge is there and your ability to execute, but the presentation to the board was not what it should have been. It should have been in a more concrete, sequential, informative way, and it was not. And it's not necessarily reflection. Some of these things are time factors, so this is no castigation against you as an individual. I look at things holistically. We're in this together, and I embody that 100%, whether it's Felicia or whomever, because essentially what you did when I asked for you to break it down, you begin to read the tenets of the district-wide plan, not educating the board. I know a lot of this because I did the assistant in the rollout of the SAVE legislation, but for average board members trying to get a pulse of what this is really about, it was very difficult in the information was not very clear. So we want, whether it's to the board members, to parents, to educators, or whomever, we want to ensure that the information is laid out in a way that we get it, because it's not, who cares if it's a whole bunch of words and a whole bunch of rhetoric. We want to know, because if something jumps off in this school district, we want to know automatic pilot what we are supposed to be doing and how we're going to get it done, who's in charge, and what's going to take place. So that's just a constructive, and again, I want to repeat, constructive criticism of the rollout of the district-wide school safety plan, which will be put on. And again, this is a compliance issue, because it has to be on the district's website in order to be compliant. And then the building level emergency response plans, which are building level, that's a whole nother level that I don't know if those pieces are in place, but they do need to be put in place if they're not. And again, thank God we haven't had any serious crises here. I mean, we had the gun, that was de-escalated. We had the Facebook thing. However, where real school shootings and things have occurred. And so we want to make sure we're operating an automatic pilot, that our students are safe, our teachers are safe, our administrators are safe, our support staff are all safe. They know if something jumps off, they know exactly what they have to do. We talked about that last week, about drills and making sure that we have all of these practices in place, because we want to be effective and our students know what to do. Because when you're in crises, you lose it. And all that you've learned sometimes isn't there. So we want to make sure that we really have a strong pulse of these tenets. And while we appreciate what you presented, we need it, and so my recommendation, Dr. Rosser, if you don't mind, would be for our assistant soup to Hodge to present the information again, and if necessary, I can work with you with some of that, not as a board member, but in my professional life, to just go over some of the pieces, because I think that it's extremely important for our community and for our board members to be really seated and making sure that that we're very much aware of what this really is. Because if I ask the board members right now to break it down for me, I'm not 100% sure, and maybe they would tell me otherwise, they understand 100% the tenets of it. Is that a pretty accurate? Did you all get it last week?
Well, I'm a school
You're a teacher.
so.
You're a teacher, so you understand it. Trustee Long?
No, I didn't get it.
Okay. So that being said, and we're in this together, so for us, for this board, we don't operate from a deficit perspective. We operate from an asset perspective, but we do it in transparency. So we don't do the okey doke. We want it real, because if something jumped off in this school, we don't want to pretend like we know what's going on. We want to know what's going on, and we want to know what we need to do, and that's the difference. Okay, that being said, we're going to move on this. Trustees, I'm asking you, do you want to move on this? It's a compliance issue, I'm going to be honest. Okay. Okay, let's move on it. Can we do it one fell swoop, or do I need to do it as an individual vote? All together?
Altogether.
We can? So is there, all in favor of approving the 2019-20 district-wide school safety plan?
So moved.
Second.
No, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, though, Trustee Martinez.
No problem.
That's my girl right here. Okay. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 13.4, approval to adopt the district mission statement?
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to defer to Dr. Rosser right now. This happened under his leadership.
So one of the things, I appreciate, the feedback that I've been receiving since I've been in place.
Can you please?
Do you have it?
It's not on the board docs agenda,
Oh, it isn't yet?
but I know that it was there.
Okay.
Okay, can you make it so that they can see it? We can get to it. We have Ms. Torres, who is the extraordinaire. So, do we
So-
have it there?
Yeah.
Good.
So as I was stating that we have, or I have encountered a number of different community and school stakeholders who have resoundingly stated that they are really looking for a new day in Poughkeepsie City Schools. They're really looking for us turning the corner. And one of the things that I've always stated is that we can be about words, but let's be more about action than words. So we had the opportunity as board and cabinet to sort of take an opportunity to talk about what the mission will be based upon conversations that we've had with school and community stakeholders. And I'm just going to read it right now. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Poughkeepsie City School District hereby adopts the following district mission statement. Quote, "We are champions of children who inspire and nurture the whole child by providing innovative, high-quality educational opportunities that prepare all students to embark on individual paths of success in a globally diverse community." Now, when I read this, it really sets the tone for what we are poised to do here in the Poughkeepsie City School District. And by stating this in words, we can always have a constant reminder of what we're qualified to do and what we're poised to do on behalf of our children. I hope that this reflects what our families and our community will want for our children, and I believe it does. Let me just repeat it once again. We are champions of children. And when I say we are champions of children, that can be embraced by anyone that's a part of the school and community family, who inspire to nurture the whole child. The whole role of an educational institution is to make sure that those little ones that we call little today will most certainly be nurtured and inspired to be the leaders of tomorrow. By providing innovative, high-quality educational opportunities that prepare all students to embark on individual paths of success in a globally diverse community. This statement here is very important because as educators, as adults who have the obligation to meet the needs of those we bring into the world, it is very important that we look at various ways in which we can meet their individual as well as their collective needs. And by innovating through high-quality educational opportunities, we most certainly will prepare them individually to embark on paths of success so that they can then compete not just on a Poughkeepsie level or a Mid-Hudson level or a New York State level or a United States level, but they will be able to compete globally in a diverse community.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? She wants to clap. Clap.
We have a mission statement.
And so, of course, the mission statement was done in conjunction with the Board of Education. It was completed during the board retreat, superintendent board retreat. It was a wonderful team-building opportunity, and the superintendent, the board, would like for everyone to embrace this, for you to share this with your students. This, of course, the mission statement by board policy will be going up into every school building, and we would ask that you work with your students around this, because one of the things that it's going to take for us to get on one accord and not operate in silos, there should be no Moore School, Warren School, Krieger School, ELC, Pace, high school, middle school, operating in isolationism. We have to operate on one accord. We have to get on one accord if we're going to move this. I'm sorry? And Clinton. Clinton, sorry, Mr. Clinton. And my bad. One of the best elementary schools out of the five, along with Morris and Warren. Yeah. That's why I said one of the best, along with, boom, there it is. Read between the lines. So, but we have to get on one accord, because what we've seen is that there's language where one is using one term, another's using another term. There's, the messaging is we're not on one accord. And one of the things that we know is that in order for us to be strong, whether it's in your personal family or whether it's in this institution and this team that we have here, we have to be on one accord. And now that we have permanent leadership, I say ahead, the CEO, then we need to continue to come together. And I know he's going to be infiltrating all of that. A lot of that will be driven from leadership in a really concerted, constructive, loving, informative, inclusive way under Dr. Rosser's leadership. The board, we deal pretty much with policy, and then the superintendent deals with daily operations. So he's very much aware of some of the nuances that are perplexing us that are going, when we get on one accord, that will help us collectively as an institution of learning, and it's going to get us to the great next level that under his leadership, where I know absolutely unequivocally where we're going. Let's see, do we have any more? Help me out here, let's see. 13 points, oh, that's it. Okay, we're going to move on the vote. Is anyone, do we need to do it individually, or is everyone in agreement? Well, you were all a part of it, so I'm assuming you're in agreement. Nobody's going to defect the mission. Okay, literally and figuratively. All in favor? Aye. None opposed, motion carries. At this time, Dr. Rosser, I'm going to ask, there's a memoriam.
Okay. So if we can all stand, let's. Whereas Mr. Leonard Marcus served in the Poughkeepsie City School District as a teacher for 16 years prior to his death on August 20th, 2019. Be it resolved that the Poughkeepsie City School District Board of Education and administration and staff extend their sincere condolences to Mr. Marcus's family and friends and join them in honoring his memory. We can just have a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At this time, we're going to go to board member comments. We're going to start with Trustee Reeser, followed up by Trustee Clifford. Well, no, we're going to actually start with, I'm sorry, our wonderful superintendent, Dr. Rosser, and then we're going to go to Trustee Reeser, Trustee Clifford, Trustee Martinez-Leffert, and Trustee Long, in that order.
So there's been a lot that has happened since last Wednesday in the district, and all of it good, which has been extremely exciting. Last week, we concluded our all administrators meeting in which, our administration in the city of Poughkeepsie School District engaged in conversation and learning opportunities to help advance their understanding of data as well as district policies and procedures, which is always good. We can all use continuous professional learning. In addition to that, we had our opening session yesterday. Yeah. We had an opening session yesterday, and this auditorium was packed full of all staff members here in the Poughkeepsie City School District, and it was a wonderful opportunity for me to sort of share who I am as Eric Rosser, and as I stated there, and I'll state again for those who weren't here, it's not about me, and it would never be about me as superintendent. As superintendent, it's my role to lead the district and to provide support to those who are here to provide for our children in every facet possible, and I'm going to live up to that responsibility. I will share with you that the comments that I've heard since the time of just yesterday, I keep mentioning as if it was like 2 weeks ago, since yesterday have been extremely positive. I've bumped into people today and yesterday evening where they, sort of shared with me that they're extremely inspired with what we can do together as a Poughkeepsie City family and meeting the needs of our children. And that's extremely exciting. And the reason why it's extremely exciting is because tomorrow will be the first day of school for our little ones. Woo! And what I encourage all of us to do is to keep the fire lit. keep the fire lit on behalf of our children.
Yes.
And keep the fire lit for the next 183 days. I believe it's 183 days for high schoolers, right? 180, 184. Okay, thank you for adding an extra day. Thank you for adding an extra day. No, but in all seriousness, that we need to keep that fire lit and the momentum going and the excitement for what we can do together as a community of adults. And I say adults because it's just not educators, it's parents, it's community members, it's organizations, it's all of us who need to rally around the whole child, which is each and every individual student in our district. I will also say that based upon a board action item last week, that beginning tomorrow, all of our middle school students, as well as our high school students, will be able to ride the public transportation for free to and from school. And what's not only big about that is that this agreement that we will be entering in with the county executive's office will also provide our students with the opportunity to use the public transportation. I call it Metro because that's what we call it in Cincinnati. But the public transportation system to be able to get back and forth to extracurricular activities, as well as to jobs or employment that they may have after school or on the weekends. So this is a very big deal for the city of Poughkeepsie, particularly the students in the city of Poughkeepsie. I've been in many school districts, and I will share with you that just last year, Buffalo, New York, engaged in a similar agreement with the NFTA, which is our transportation system in Buffalo. And I will share with you that the parents and the students appreciated it wholeheartedly. What's great about this program for our students is that Poughkeepsie was ahead of the game. So Poughkeepsie had implemented this beginning October of last year, which has been very exciting. We did not do a great job with being articulate about this opportunity for children, but we've been working very closely with the Office of the County Exec to make sure that this information is out there for our families and our students to be able to take full advantage of, so that we can increase our attendance rates, particularly during the winter months when the winters, from what people say here, don't get harsh like they do in Buffalo, but I'm pretty sure that kids, if it's probably 32 degrees here, kids are like, I'm not going outside, it's too cold outside. And they don't want to necessarily walk to school. But however, they will have the public transportation to be able to catch to and from school and remain warm as they are traveling to our middle school and our high schools. So I do want to state that. Say thank you to our Board of Education for approving this, and also our county exec, Mark Marilano, with making this opportunity available for our children.
And thank you, sir, for negotiating the tenets of the contract.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, congratulations, Dr. Rosser. That's fantastic news. I hardly know where to begin. I share Superintendent Rosser's excitement about the school year, a sense of optimism and hope about what we're going to accomplish together under your leadership. I'm excited for Sophie trundling into Krieger tomorrow morning. She's excited. I'm excited for the teachers, the professional staff, the administrators who have been waiting for a moment, right, where change is happening in the right direction, right, where now is the chance to implement the ideas and the plans to make this district what it can be. I'm excited for democracy. That was a spirited debate. A little apologetic that I was like the resident curmudgeon tonight.
That was wonderful.
Well, it's democracy in action, and I had some objections that I could not get over, and they were just mine, and I had a chance to express them. So I appreciate democracy and my colleagues. I come away from this evening as deeply appreciative as ever of the commitment to the kids by our administrators, by our teachers, our parents, board members, and I'm really excited for all the wonderful changes that are going to happen in our district going forward. I'm really excited about the start of the school year.
Me too. No, like really. I just excited. I don't know any other word really to describe it. I'm really moved by the fact that we passed a resolution adopting a mission statement for this school district that has needed one for such a long time on the eve of school opening. It's, it gives me goosebumps. Like Andrew said, we're moving in a direction that I have hoped for. I'm gonna get a little, I call it airy-fairy, I guess, but that I've dreamed, yeah, emotional. That I've dreamed about and hoped for since Grace started kindergarten. Tomorrow she starts high school. And I'm proud that she's going to start high school in this building tomorrow.
Yes.
I'm proud of the work that we do, even to this day, and I've been saying it for, I don't know, 9, 8 years. Yeah, I'm this district's biggest fan. I'm its biggest critic, and right now, I am just so excited for the direction that we're heading in. It's palpable. And that's, that's why I ran for this position, was to see and affect change, and it's happening at an amazing rate and with, tremendous velocity. And I want us to carry that through the school year. Wasn't really looking forward to summer being over, but am really looking forward to school starting, and starting with this kind of momentum and energy. So I want to thank Dr. Rosser. I know that you have put in countless hours. You've had a lot to take on and manage and deal with and learn in the short amount of time that you've been here. Please extend my thanks to Tara, because I can only imagine what it's been like for her. And I want to say it now. I want to thank all, and they're not all here. I wish I could have been there yesterday. I myself am working in Hyde Park, so I had my own superintendent's conference day that I had to attend. But I want to say it now. And please, those of you in the room, pass this along. And I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure I speak for my fellow colleagues, that thank you to our teachers, to our administrators, to our staff members, from Dr. Rosser, our assistant soups, our principals, and our nurses and our food staff and everyone. Just thank you so much for the work that you do with our children, for the time and the dedication and the commitment that you have to our students. I have always believed it, I still believe it, and I still say it. There's a reason that you all are here, and I believe it's our students. And that's what makes you special, and that's what makes you different, and that's what makes it so great for our kids, is that they have you, and they have you on their side. So let's have an awesome school year.
So I just have one comment. Well, one comment that's not just congratulating everybody about the school year. So I think that our district really needs to look at how we can provide a budget for our teachers, so parents are not being given these potentially 4 to 5 page lists of supplies that parents have to purchase for their children. it can be very overwhelming, especially when we're receiving them a week before school starts or potentially the first week of school. I just really feel that we are doing a disservice to our teachers and to our families by the district not providing a budget to our teachers to be able to purchase things through the school district, so they're not requesting all these items from parents. Aside from that, I just want to wish everybody a fabulous 2019-20 school year. I'm super excited to hear about all the good things that are going to happen this year. I'm super excited that we have Dr. Rosser as our superintendent, and I am really looking forward to the movement that this district is going to make. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to all the staff of the district and dealing with all of our amazing children. Dr. Rosser, I just want to say thank you. I really enjoyed working with the cabinet and yourself and the board on our new mission. That was well-deserved, and it does say a lot. I appreciate I forgot her name already, but the individual who came up for the citizen comments, that was powerful.
Ms. Cox.
I'm sorry, Ms. Ho?
Cox.
Hi, Ms. Cox. That was powerful how you identified your grandson as a champion, and that's what our students are. I just want to say I look forward to a very productive year, and thank you again for all that you do. And that's it.
So as we close out, I just want to thank everyone again for being here. I like to acknowledge people. So with all teachers that are here on the eve of kicking off a school year tomorrow, please stand. All teachers.
Come on.
All teacher. All teacher.
You represent all of them.
She's a union member, so she's representing all. How many teachers do we have in the district? 400 teachers in the school district. And then we have building level principals. Would all building level principals please stand up? And that's major, especially given that they have to be vibrant and at the forefront tomorrow. So thank you also. All central administration staff, please stand up. Mr. Deron Wilson. These are our central administration staff, and these are the individuals, this is the glue. This is where these are the individuals that support Dr. Rosser, because we know no person is an island unto him or herself. And so in the direct front line, these are the individuals who support him. These are his go-to people. And just say it. Oh, okay. These are the people who support him, and so thank you, central administration folks, although by policy, you're supposed to be here. So that's a whole nother thing. And then we have assistant principals. One. Beautiful.
Did you get your boot off? I mean, did you have a boot on now? Okay.
Okay, she has the boot on.
Yeah.
And then there's parents in the audience. Can our parents or family members,
Caregivers,
guardians, please stand up? PTA. Yes. And Ms. Cox, just to reiterate what my board colleague said, we super appreciate you. And after this, I'm coming over for a hug, and you got to give it to me, okay? Yeah, I hug. So we're going to give you a hug because we're in this together. And then we have our IT folks. Where are IT folks? They are the best. Trustee Martinez whispered to me, but I would have to get our IT people. I told Dr. Rosser, we had a whole conversation after Superintendent's Conference Day. And just so the board members know, on behalf of the Board of Education, I did openly acknowledge every single person on behalf of the board to say that we do super appreciate them. My remarks were definitely on behalf of the Board of Education. And then we have our board clerk extraordinaire. And so just so as we look around, and we don't do this board doesn't do this just because, but we genuinely appreciate each and every one of you, and we respect you. That's the bigger thing, is that we really respect you. We respect you in your positions, and we realize that we're all getting better. We hold each other accountable. And I want to say to each of my board colleague members, Trustee Long, Trustee Martinez-Leffert, Trustee Clifford, and Trustee Reeser, I super appreciate you, and I mentioned yesterday during the superintendent's comments, we don't get paid for this, but the passion of these individuals is bar none. There's just no comparison. This is these individuals are the right people at the right time, and they're getting the job done. And of course, we can all be changed at any given time within a 3-year period. But right now, in order to move this district forward, these are the right people to make it happen. And I super appreciate each and every one of you, and I appreciate your voice, and I respect your voice for each and every one of you. And then, of course, our hostess of the mostest, our leader, Mr. Mr. Big Stuff, Mr. Got It Going On, Mr. All That in a Bag of Chips, Mr. Got a Big Job ahead of him, Mr. I hope by tomorrow we still have him because I hope he don't quit. Or by next week, I hope he don't quit. Dr. Rosser, we super appreciate you, Dr. Rosser, and we're so happy to have you on board, knowing that you're not in this, never, and I tell you this resoundingly, you're not in this alone, never alone, never alone, never alone. And you let your lovely wife and you give her a kiss from us this evening.
I'm on punishment because I haven't been home in a while.
Oh, you're in the doghouse, but then you got to ease upon and say, this is from the community, the family. You got to say that and just hit her real fast with the kiss, and that might smooth things out. So we're trying to bridge some gaps here. Thank you also very much. At this time, is there a motion to adjourn out of his, one thing, before I forget, I have one quote. I have a quote, and my colleagues are going to hit me on the head afterwards, but it says, listen up, board colleagues, and don't be hating on me. Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today.
Today's tomorrow.
There's an inside joke. I'm not going to go into it. Anyway, it's from one of my, that's a quote from one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X. And so is there a motion to adjourn out of this meeting for this evening? And we wish you all the absolute best 2019-20 school year. And if all the principals here, if you would please tomorrow, please give a shout out from the Board of Education on behalf of the board that we have your back 100%, 150%. We'll be seeing, I'll be doing my little drive-by. So just know that we got you 100%, okay? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.